Can you solve all these acid-base chemistry questions? VH9? Valid point. Weak base is true. Correct response. Strong base is the most accurate answer. Phi. Nice work. You chose doesn't exist, and it is correct. Excellent. Weak acid is a brilliant choice. pH. You're right. Acid is the correct answer. pH equal to 7. Well picked. Neutral is the correct answer. Fish. Good job. Base works well here. pH of 5. Clear logic. Your choice weak acid is sound. Necklace. Smart move. Neutral is an accurate answer. Water is? Excellent choice. Neutral is the right answer. Bleach is? Sharp thinking. A base is the right choice. Weak base. You got it? Your choice now is right. Bravo. Acid is the answer. VH number 3. Great job. Acid is the accurate answer. Acid plus base. Nice selection. Water plus salt is the correct and valid answer. Base tastes? Well done. Bitter is the right choice. Co is dash? Good thinking. A base is the right answer. Strong acid. On track, Heclo 3 is the correct answer. Nitrous acid. Correct. Here is the right answer. What is No3? Right again. Acid is a valid answer. What is Cal? Great thinking. Alkali is the right choice. What is Quill? Solid response. Hydrochloric acid is a valid choice. pH value is 7. Strong choice. Neutral is the right answer. Feels slippery? You chose base, and it is correct. Sulfuric acid. Nicely done. ChSO4 is a solid answer. Chlorous acid. Smart pick. Heclo 2 is the correct choice. Soap contains? Exactly. Sodium hydroxide makes sense. Most foods are? Perfect. Acid is the correct choice. Nickel is a dash. Right choice. Salt is the best answer. Grapes contain? Well reasoned. Tartaric acid is the correct choice. Ansting has? On track. Methanoic acid is the correct answer. Sticky texture. Right again. Acid is a valid answer. What is litmus? Well picked. An indicator is the correct answer. Example of acid. Well done. Vinegar is the right choice. A proton donor. Smart move. Acid is an accurate answer. Select the base. Perfect. Baking soda is the correct choice. Tento is? Correct. Washing soda is the right answer. Found in vinegar. Exactly. Acetic acid makes sense. Lemon juice is a? You're right. Acid is the correct answer. Antacids contain? Sharp thinking. Weak base is the right choice. An acid has a smart pick. Lower than 7 is the correct choice. Pick the odd one. You got it. Your choice, hydrogen chloride, is right. Sodium hydroxide. Excellent. Strong base is a brilliant choice. Hydrobromic acid. Correct response. Haybar is the most accurate answer. Taste sour dash. Right choice. Acid is the best answer. Acid tastes dash. You chose sour, and it is correct. Red ants contains. Good job. Formic acid works well here. Example of a base. Nice work. You chose ammonia, and it is correct. Hydrochloric acid. Well reasoned. HCl is the correct choice. Base has Fh value. Bravo, core 7 is the answer. A base has a dash. Excellent choice. Slippery feel is the right answer. Acid has Fh value. Clear logic. Your choice 7 is sound. Acid plus base equal to dash. Solid response. Salt is a valid choice. Acid in vinegar is. Great job. Acetic acid is the accurate answer. And has which acid? Good thinking. Formic acid is the right answer. Have a bitter taste. Great thinking. Base is the right choice. Water would be dash. Strong choice. Neutral is the right answer. Which is a weak base? Valid point. Quicklime is true. A fava 14 is a dash. Nice selection. Strong base is the correct and valid answer. The more H plus ions the. Nicely done. Stronger the acid is a solid answer. pH value more than 7. Well picked. Alkali is the correct answer. Acid in car battery. Great job. Sulfuric acid is the accurate answer. Acid in our stomach. Good job. Hydrochloric acid works well here. Lemon juice contains. Strong choice. Citric acid is the right answer. Sodium carbonate is. You chose base, and it is correct. How does acid taste? Perfect. Sour is the correct choice. An acid is defined as. Exactly. A proton donor makes sense. Name this acid HAFO. Excellent. Perchloric acid is a brilliant choice. Acid have which taste? On track. Sour is the correct answer. Example, purified water. Right again. Neutral is a valid answer. Acid base, salt, CaC2. Well done. Salt is the right choice. Detergent is a Van dash. Nice work. You chose base and it is correct. An acid can react with. Well reasoned. We eat is the correct choice. What is taste of acid? Nicely done. Sour is a solid answer. Examples of citric acid? You got it? Your choice orange is right. What are proton donors? Correct. Acids is the right answer. Reacts with metals dash. Solid response. Acid is a valid choice. Salt of nitric acid are. Right choice. Nitrate salt is the best answer. Lemons would be in dash. Sharp thinking. Acid is the right choice. Forms a O hydroxide ion. Correct response. Arrhenius base is the most accurate answer. An example of a base is. Nice selection. Dish soap is the correct and valid answer. Turns cabbage juice pink. Clear logic. Your choice acid is sound. Is NO3 an acid or base? Smart move. Acid is an accurate answer. We can dilute an acid by. Good thinking. Adding water to it is the right answer. Acid, base, or salt now. Excellent choice. Base is the right answer. A base has a dash taste. Great thinking. Bitter is the right choice. CISO is classified as a. Bravo. Strong base is the answer. Turns blue litmus to red. Valid point. Acid is true. Sodium hydroxide is again. You're right. Base is the correct answer. Which one is not a base? Smart pick. Here is the correct choice. Which one is strong acid? Smart pick. Nitric acid is the correct choice. Sulfuric acid is a dash. Well reasoned. Strong acid is the correct choice. Acid shows red color with. Solid response. All of these is a valid choice. What is the taste of acid? Strong choice. Sour is the right answer. Acetic acid is present in. Great job. Vinegar is the accurate answer. An acid can be defined as. Perfect. Proton donor is the correct choice. Haber is an example of a. You're right. Acid is the correct answer. All metal oxides are dash. Right choice. Bases is the best answer. Sweat contains water and. Good job. Salt works well here. The acid pair of 2 PO4 is. Correct response. PO4 2 is the most accurate answer. Dash are bitter in taste. You got it. Your choice bases is right. Which is example of acid? Excellent. Orange juice is a brilliant choice. Dash has fin between 6-2. Well done. Acid is the right choice. Turns cabbage juice purple. On track. Neutral solution is the correct answer. AF of 1,6 is a dash. Valid point. Acid is true. All matter is made of dash. Nice work. You chose atoms and it is correct. Which is the weakest acid? Good thinking. Heclo is the right answer. What is an Arrhenius acid? Excellent choice. Hydrogen ion containing compound is the right answer. Phosphoric acid has formula. Nice selection. 8,3-PO is the correct and valid answer. Gastric juice is made up of. Nicely done. Acid and enzymes is a solid answer. H3PO4 is which type of acid? You chose tribasic, and it is correct. Which is not a strong acid. Correct. AIF is the right answer. What is the fix of acid rain? Clear logic. Your choice 5.6 is sound. Identify the strongest acid. Smart move. Okay is an accurate answer. Scale that ranges from 114. Sharp thinking. pH is the right choice. Spinach contains dash acid. Bravo. Oxalic acid is the answer. The acid present in curd is? Great thinking. Lactic acid is the right choice. What is the name for HESA3? Exactly. Sulfurous acid makes sense. Name of acid present in curd. Well picked. Lactic acid is the correct answer. Heber is the conjugate acid of? Right again. Ba1 is a valid answer. Give the acid name for H2CO3. Bravo. Carbonic acid is the answer. Ant string is an example of? Smart pick. Formic acid is the correct choice. Has more H+ ions than O ions. Well done. Acid is the right choice. H3PO4 is an example of a dash. On track. Acid is the correct answer. Vinegar is an example of dash. Solid response. An acid is a valid choice. The conjugate acid for UNCH3 is? Great job, NECH4+ is the accurate answer. What does nitric acid release? Good thinking. Nitrate is the right answer. Base will turn red mustache. Great thinking. Blue is the right choice. Potassium is an example of a? Correct response. Double salt is the most accurate answer. An acid has a phi range of dash. Smart move. Zer7 is an accurate answer. What is another name for base? Excellent choice. Alkaline is the right answer. Which of these is a weak base? Strong choice. NAR is the right answer. A weak base would have a flav. Good job. 8 works well here. Which includes 1-valence acids? Exactly. Bromic acid makes sense. Is Naclin acid base or salt? Well reasoned. Salt is the correct choice. What can cause chemical burns? Nice selection. Both is the correct and valid answer. What fetch is the strongest base? Valid point. 14 is true. The acid obtained from curd is? Perfect. Lactic acid is the correct choice. Mango contains an acid or a base. Excellent. None of the above is a brilliant choice. Name the acid present in apple. Right again. Malic acid is a valid answer. Acid present in gooseberries is? You got it. Your choice tartaric acid is right. Zen2 is an example of a dash. Right choice. Base is the best answer. The far range for a base is dash. Well picked. 714 is the correct answer. Potassium hydroxide is dash base. Sharp thinking. Strong is the right choice. Is acid harmful to the skin dash? Nicely done. True dash is a solid answer. Sulfuric acid was discovered by? You're right. Jabir bin Hayyan is the correct answer. What type of substance is eclophore? Nice work. You chose strong acid, and it is correct. Turns universal indicator purple. Correct. Base is the right answer. What is the phi range of an acid? Clear logic. Your choice for 6.9. Turns blue litmus paper red dash. You chose acid, and it is correct. Has more H plus in solution than O. Well picked. Acid is the correct answer. Which of these is a strong acid? You got it. Your choice ACLO3 is right. The corresponding acid of SO3 is? Right choice. H2SO4 is the best answer. What is the chemical name for F? Well reasoned. Hydrofluoric acid is the correct choice. What is the Ka for a strong acid? Good thinking. Twe1 is the right answer. The FH of a strong base would be? Right again. 1314 is a valid answer. The sting of an ant contains dash. Great thinking. Formic acid is the right choice. Which acid is present in tamarind? Nice work. You chose tartaric acid, and it is correct. What is the name of the acid NO3? Sharp thinking. Nitric acid is the right choice. Is coffee an acid, base, or neutral? Clear logic. Your choice acid is sound. The following are corrosive except. Correct. Neutral is the right answer. Formed when bases react with acids. Smart pick. Neutral is the correct choice. A neutralization reaction produces. Solid response. Salt and water is a valid choice. Latin word of acid and its meaning. On track. Acidus is the correct answer. The conjugate base of SO4 is dash. Excellent choice. SO42 is the right answer. Chemical formula of sulfuric acid. Well done. 2SO4 is the right choice. Nitric acid turns red litmus blue. You chose true, and it is correct. A strong acid is an acid that dash. Strong choice. Both is the right answer. A compound that donates H plus ions is. Excellent. A Bronsted-Lowry acid is a brilliant choice. Rain is called acid rain when it's. Correct response. pH falls below 5.6 is the most accurate answer. Which one is Kong's base among them? Exactly. Now makes sense. A common alkali used in the lab is? Nice selection. Sodium hydroxide is the correct and valid answer. Accepts a proton? Nicely done. Bronsted-Lowry base is a solid answer. Which solution will feel slippery? Bravo! Base is the answer. What is the name for the base cow? Great job. Potassium hydroxide is the accurate answer. What is the source of malic acid?
You're right. Apple is the correct answer.
Phenolphthalein turns dash in acid.
Smart move. Colorless is an accurate answer. Pure water is dash on the phase scale. Valid point. Neutral is true.
Which species is an areneous acid?
Good job. Hexyl works well here. Select the formula for bromic acid. Perfect. Habra is the correct choice. What do we do when an ant bites us? Nicely done. Apply moist baking soda is a solid answer. Orange juice turns blue litmus red. Exactly. Acid makes sense. Which substance is a diprotic acid? Nice selection. Sulfuric acid is the correct and valid answer. Which of the acid is found in milk? Nice work. You chose lactic acid, and it is correct.
The basicity of acetic acid is dash.
Right choice. 1 is the best answer. Factory waste can be neutralized by. Smart move. Acid or base is an accurate answer. What type of reaction is acid-base? Great thinking. Neutralization is the right choice. What is the conjugate base of aclophor? Excellent choice. Clophor Tags acid base theories is the right answer. Examples: cola, vinegar, orange juice. Excellent. Acid is a brilliant choice.
Q1. Which acid is present in tomato?
Correct. Oxalic acid is the right answer. Reacts with metals to give off a gas. Clear logic. Your choice acid is sound.
Which of these solutions is an acid?
Smart pick. Tomato soup. Pleophore is the correct choice. Which of these will neutralize acid? You got it? Your choice Nio is right.
Which of the acids is the strongest?
Well picked. Hydrochloric acid is the correct answer. What effect does acid have on litmus? Sharp thinking. Turns blue to red is the right choice. How do we convert the factory waste? You chose base, and it is correct. Which of the given is a strong base? On track. Potassium hydroxide is the correct answer. NEC4 name the following substances. Correct response. Ammonium hydroxide is the most accurate answer. A sour taste is a characteristic of. Perfect. Acid is the correct choice. A very strong acid would have a fifth of. Solid response. 1 is a valid choice.
Identify the compound that is an acid.
Valid point. Here I am is true. The acid used in making of vinegar is. Good job. Acetic acid works well here. What is the conjugate acid of HCl? Well reasoned. Here I am is the correct choice. pH equal to log 10 is used to calculate. Bravo. pH is the answer.
The word acid comes from Latin word.
Good thinking. Acidic is the right answer. Which acid is present in your stomach? You're right. HCl is the correct answer. Turns cabbage juice blue and or green. Right again. Base is a valid answer. Which substance is an Arrhenius base? Great job. Co is the accurate answer. Which of the following is a weak base?
Strong choice. Zinc carbonate is the right answer. How does Bronsted-Lowry define a base? Well done. H+ acceptor is the right choice. Salts of nitric acid are named as dash.
Well done. Nitrates is the right choice.
Partially dissociates in water is dash.
Great thinking. Weak base is the right choice.
Will react like an acid or a base dash. Good thinking. H2 is the right answer. This acid is used in food preservation.
Correct. Citric acid is the right answer.
A solution that tastes bitter is a dash. You got it? Your choice base is right. A dash acid can only donate 1 proton.
Right again. Monoprotic is a valid answer, which is not a characteristic of a base.
Perfect. Feels itchy, burns is the correct choice. Which substance will neutralize a base? Nice work. You chose HF and it is correct.
What Fe range would you get for an acid? On track. ZO6 is the correct answer. An acid and a base reacting produce a dash. Nice selection. Water and a salt is the correct and valid answer. Choose oxyacid from the following acids. Solid response. Nitric acid is a valid choice.
Classify the following solution. 15 ml.
Correct response. Concentrated, strong acid is the most accurate answer.
Which of the following is soapy to touch?
Smart move. Sodium hydroxide is an accurate answer.
Name the following in order Heclo for Eplai.
Excellent choice. Perchloric acid, chloric acid is the right answer. Which of the following acid is weak acid? You're right. Cake is the correct answer. This substance releases O into solution. Clear logic. Your choice base is sound.
Name of the acid present in your stomach.
Bravo. Hexyl is the answer. Methyl orange is what color in an acid? Smart pick. Red is the correct choice. Which among the following is not a base? Nicely done. CFO is a solid answer.
What color is phenolphthalein in a base?
Valid point. Pink is true. What is the color of litmus in an acid? Well reasoned. Red is the correct choice. Strong acids react with weak base to form. Excellent. Acidic salt is a brilliant choice.
What is the scientific name of lime water?
Exactly. Calcium hydroxide makes sense. What is the formula for permanganic acid? Well picked. Hanafor is the correct answer. A weak base could have a Phe of about dash. Sharp thinking. 8 is the right choice.
Has more O ions than H+ ions in solution.
Right choice. Base is the best answer. Bases that dissolve in water are known as. Great job. Alkali is the accurate answer. A solution is an acid if it has more dash. strong choice. H plus ions is the right answer. This acid is used as an ink stain remover. Good job. Oxalic acid works well here. Color of China rose indicator in bases. You chose green, and it is correct. Which of the following is an electrolyte? You got it. Your choice both is right.
Examples: baking soda, drain cleaner, Tums.
Well reasoned. Base is the correct choice. What is the formula for phosphorus acid? Clear logic. Your choice, Hisaboon, is sound.
Dash a substance that can donate O plus ion.
Good thinking. Base is the right answer.
Which of the following describes an acid?
Great thinking. Lofex is the right choice. Name the acid present in sting of an ant.
Well picked. Formic acid is the correct answer.
Releases hydrogen in an aqueous solution. Solid response. Acid is a valid choice.
Which of the following is a tribasic acid?
On track, H3PO4 is the correct answer. What type of substance is phosphoric acid?
Excellent. Weak acid is a brilliant choice. Neutralization with soluble base is called.
Smart pick. Titration is the correct choice.
Lemon is in acid, alkali, or neutral group.
Bravo. Acid is the answer.
Rain is called an acid rain when the Phi is.
Well done. Below 5.6 is the right choice. Which one of the given is an organic acid? You're right. Both then is the correct answer. Classify the following compound 0.1 Monod. Nice selection. Dilute, strong base is the correct and valid answer.
What do you neutralize a strong base with?
Good job. Weak acid works well here. The odor of acetic acid resembles that of. Smart move. Vinegar is an accurate answer.
If the H value is 5, what is the substance?
Valid point. Acid is true. What is the formula for hydrofluoric acid? Correct. HF is the right answer. The reaction between an acid and a base is. You chose neutralization. And it is correct.
Reaction of an acid with a base is known as.
Exactly. Neutralization makes sense. What is the Ph of an extremely strong acid? Perfect. PH2 is the correct choice. The chemical formula for phosphoric acid is Ps. Sharp thinking. Chi3PO4 is the right choice.
Which pH number below reflects a weak base?
Nice work. You chose 8, and it is correct.
What acid is needed to make copper nitrate?
Correct response. Nitric is the most accurate answer. One acid-base theory states that an acid is. Nicely done. An H plus donor is a solid answer. The Ph of vinegar is 2.5. Vinegar is a dash. Right choice. Strong acid is the best answer. Which of these Ph values represent an acid? Great job. 4 is the accurate answer. Which of the following doesn't contain base? Excellent choice. Nitric acid is the right answer. A solution of NaAcetate with acetic acid is strong choice. Acidic buffer is the right answer. Which of the following is an Arrhenius acid? Right again. Okay is a valid answer. Which of these products makes a cake spongy? Well reasoned. Carbon dioxide is the correct choice. Name the acid released by the bite of an ant. Perfect. Formic acid is the correct choice. Acid solution effect in litmus paper is dash. Correct response. Red is the most accurate answer. Reacts with blue litmus paper, turning it red. Exactly. Acid makes sense. Which of the following substances is a base? Sharp thinking. Bay2 is the right choice. Ammonia has a Po of 2. Ammonia is a dash. Good thinking. Base is the right answer. An acid donates dash in an aqueous solution. Good job. Hydrogen ions works well here. Ascorbic acid is present in dash. Well picked. Citrus fruits is the correct answer. What would the following be considered? pH 14. Bravo. Base is the answer. Which molecule or ion cannot act as an acid? Nice work. You chose CH4 and it is correct. The acid is released when ant stings is dash. You chose formic acid and it is correct. Which of the following is a polyprotic acid? Solid response. CH4 is a valid choice. Acid present in fizzy drinks and soda drinks. Smart move. Carbonic acid is an accurate answer. Formic acid can be neutralized by using dash. Nice selection. Sodium bicarbonate is the correct and valid answer. What is the conjugate acid for the base NH3? Smart pick. Mensch 4+ is the correct choice. Of the following, which is the strongest acid? Correct. Hecla-4 is the right answer. Which substance has the properties of a base? You got it. Your choice glass cleaner is right. A dash acid ionizes completely. Right again. Strong is a valid answer. Which of the following is not a type of salt? Excellent. Soluble salt is a brilliant choice. Which of the following is not a mineral acid? Clear logic. Your choice citric acid is sound. Base turns the color of indicator paper into. Right choice. Blue is the best answer. A dash ionizes almost completely in solution. Great job. Strong acid is the accurate answer. Which of the following salts is an acid salt? You're right. Say2 is the correct answer. Which solution can turn phenolphthalein pink? Valid point. Sodium hydroxide is true. Which Fesch number below reflects a strong acid? Well done. 1 is the right choice. Which acid is known as the king of chemicals? Great thinking. Sulfuric acid is the right choice. Identify the base commonly used as an antacid. Strong choice. Magnesium hydroxide is the right answer. Bronsted-Lowry defined an acid as being a dash. Nicely done. A proton donor is a solid answer.
Salts of sulfurous acid is named as.
Excellent choice. Sulfites is the right answer.
What is the remedy for ant bite?
On track. Sodium hydrogen carbonate is the correct answer.
How you will get all these quiz questions in PDF books format?
You got it. Your choice contact Narayan Changder is right.